The band was playing her out to applause. She was halfway across the stage, waving to the studio audience with that practiced elegance she'd perfected over 20 years in Hollywood, when Merv Griffin stood from behind his desk and extended his hand. The smile on his face was genuine. It always was with her. She'd been on his show 11 times before this, 12 if you counted the Christmas special in '76, and every appearance had been exactly what America expected. Warm, funny, a little self-deprecating, and utterly charming. Her publicist had confirmed the booking 3 weeks earlier. Another film was coming out, another press tour, another round of talk shows where she'd tell the same curated stories about her co-stars, her childhood, her love of gardening. She was good at this. Better than good. She could make Merv laugh in a way that felt spontaneous even when the story had been told a dozen times before. The audience loved her. Middle America loved her. She was safe, reliable, the kind of actress mothers wanted their daughters to grow up to be. She settled into the guest chair, smoothing the fabric of her dress. The stage lights were hot, but she'd learned long ago how to look cool under them. Merv leaned back in his chair, shuffling his note cards in that casual way that made it seem like he was just having a conversation with a friend. "You look wonderful," he said. "Oh, stop," she replied, waving him off. "You say that to everyone. I mean it every time." The audience laughed. She smiled. The rhythm was already in place. Merv asked about the new film. She gave him the setup. A romantic comedy, a charming leading man, a director she adored. The audience applauded at the right moments. She crossed her legs, leaned forward when she wanted to emphasize something, leaned back when she wanted Merv to take over. It was a dance. They both knew the steps. "And your husband," Merv said, glancing at his cards. "He came to set, didn't he? I heard he brought lunch for the whole crew one day." She smiled, but there was a flicker of something behind it. Just for a second. The kind of thing most people wouldn't catch. "He did," she said. "He's very generous that way." "That's a good man," Merv said. "He is." There was a pause, not long, maybe 2 seconds, but Merv noticed it. He'd been doing this long enough to know when someone was holding something back. He moved on, asked about her garden. She brightened immediately, talking about roses and soil pH and the neighbor's cat that kept digging up her tulip bulbs. The audience laughed. Merv laughed. She was back in her element. Then she told a story about redecorating her bedroom. It started innocently enough. She was talking about hiring an interior designer, about picking out wallpaper, about how her husband had no opinion on any of it and just let her do whatever she wanted. The audience chuckled knowingly. Typical husband behavior. And I thought, well, if he's not going to weigh in, I'm just going to make it exactly how I want it, she said. I picked this beautiful floral pattern, very English countryside, and I had them put in new curtains, new bedding, the whole thing. Merv nodded, smiling. "Sounds lovely." "It is," she said. "And honestly, he barely notices. He's been sleeping in the guest room for so long, I don't think he's even seen it." She laughed. The audience laughed. Merv's smile didn't move, but his eyes changed. She kept talking, still riding the rhythm of the joke. "I mean, we've had separate rooms for, 4 years now? 5. I lose track, but it's wonderful, honestly. I get the whole bed to myself. I can read as late as I want and—" She stopped. Her face didn't fall, exactly. It was subtler than that, like someone who just realized they'd left the stove on at home. A tiny shift in her expression, a barely perceptible intake of breath. The audience was still laughing, but it was fading now, unsure. Merv hadn't moved. He was still leaning back in his chair, still holding his note cards, but his eyes were locked on hers. She tried to recover. "I mean, you know how it is," she said, her voice a little higher now, a little faster. "Marriage. You find what works. We're very happy." But the word happy landed wrong. Too insistent. Too defensive. Merv set his note cards down on the desk, slowly. The band had gone quiet. The audience had gone quiet. Even the crew in the back seemed to sense that something had shifted. "Separate rooms," Merv said softly. "Not a question, just a repetition." She nodded, her smile still fixed in place. "Yes, it's very common actually. Lots of couples do it." "Of course," Merv said, but he wasn't moving the conversation forward. He wasn't rescuing her. Not yet. She looked down at her hands, then back up at him. Her eyes were asking him something. Please, please don't. Merv had a choice to make. He'd been in this position before. Guests said things they didn't mean to say. They revealed too much, got too comfortable, forgot that 20 million people were watching. It was his job to guide them back to safety, to protect them, to make sure they left the stage with their dignity intact. But something about this felt different. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This wasn't a joke that went too far. This was something she'd been carrying for years, and it had just tumbled out of her mouth in front of everyone. And now she was sitting there, on his stage, in front of his audience, waiting to see what he would do. The silence stretched. Merv leaned forward, not in an aggressive way, just enough to close the distance between them. "You said 5 years," he said quietly. She blinked. I don't know. I was joking. I wasn't." "You weren't joking," Merv said. Not unkindly, just factually. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked out at the audience, then back at Merv. Her hands were gripping the armrests of the chair now. "No," she whispered. "I wasn't." The audience didn't know what to do. A few people shifted in their seats. Someone coughed. The cameras kept rolling. Merv didn't look away from her. "Are you okay?" he asked. It was such a simple question, so direct, and somehow that made it worse. Her eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back, hard. "I don't know," she said, and just like that, the mask was gone. Merv Griffin had started in radio. Before the talk show, before the game shows, before the hotels and the real estate empire, he'd been a big band singer in the 1940s. He'd performed with Freddie Martin's orchestra, sung on records, done the whole circuit. And the thing about performing live, really live, not taped, not edited, not controlled, was that you learned to read a room in real time. You learned when to push, when to pull back, when to let a moment breathe. He'd carried that instinct into television. His show wasn't like Carson's. Carson was sharp, quick, always a step ahead. Merv was warmer, more patient. He let his guests talk, he let them meander, and when they stumbled, he was there to catch them. But this was different. This wasn't a stumble. This was a confession. And he had to decide, in the next 10 seconds, whether to let it stand or bury it under a joke. He looked at her, really looked at her. The tears she was fighting back, the way her hands were trembling, the way her entire body had tensed up like she was bracing for impact. She was terrified. Not of him, of what she'd just said, of what it meant, of what would happen when this aired in 3 days. Merv took a breath. "Listen," he said, and his voice was so gentle that the audience leaned in to hear him. "We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Okay?" She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Merv looked at the camera. "We'll be right back," he said. The floor director called for a commercial break. The stage lights dimmed slightly. The audience sat frozen, unsure if they were supposed to clap. Merv stood up and walked over to her chair. He crouched down beside her, one hand on the armrest, so they were at eye level. "Are you okay?" he asked again. Quieter this time, just for her. She shook her head. "I don't know why I said that." "It's all right. It's not. Merv, it's not. My publicist is going to kill me. My husband." She stopped, her breath catching. "God, my husband. We can cut it," Merv said. "If you want, we can cut the whole thing. No one has to see it." She looked at him, her eyes wide. "You'd do that?" "Of course I would." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked out at the audience. They were still sitting there, watching her. Some of them looked concerned. Some looked confused. A few looked uncomfortable, like they'd just witnessed something they weren't supposed to see. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, careful not to smudge her makeup. "No," she said finally. "Don't cut it." "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I'm sure." Merv studied her face. "You don't have to do this." "I know." She took a shaky breath. "But maybe I need to." When they came back from commercial, the audience applauded cautiously. Merv had returned to his desk. She was still in the guest chair, her posture a little straighter now, her hands folded in her lap. Merv didn't ease into it. He didn't try to lighten the mood with a joke. He just looked at her and said, "Do you want to keep talking about this?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." "Okay," Merv said. "Then let's talk." She swallowed. "I didn't mean to say it about the separate rooms. It came out. I know. But it's true." Her voice was steadier now, quieter but steadier. "We've been sleeping in separate rooms for almost 5 years, and I don't think anyone knows. Not our friends, not our families, certainly not the press." Why separate rooms? Merv asked, not prying, just asking. She looked down at her hands. Because it's easier. Because we don't. She stopped, searching for the right words. We don't fight. We don't argue. We're very polite to each other. We have dinner together. We go to parties together. We smile for the cameras, but we don't. She trailed off. You don't talk, Merv said. She looked up at him, surprised. No, we don't. How long has it been like that? I don't know. Years. It happened so gradually that I didn't even notice at first. One day I realized we hadn't had a real conversation in months, and then I realized we hadn't had one in years. The audience was completely silent now. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was something else. Do you still love him? Merv asked. It was an intrusive question. The kind of question that, on any other night, with any other guest, would have felt out of bounds. But she didn't flinch. I don't know, she said. I think I love the idea of him. I love the life we built. I love the version of us that everyone thinks we are. But the actual him? She paused. I don't know if I even know who he is anymore. Merv nodded slowly. He didn't offer platitudes. He didn't tell her it would be okay. He just let her words sit there. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. This isn't what anyone came here to see. Don't apologize, Merv said. She laughed. But it came out broken. I just wanted to talk about my movie. That's all I was supposed to do. You can still talk about your movie, Merv said. She shook her head. No one's going to care about the movie now. Maybe not, Merv admitted. But maybe that's okay. She looked at him confused. Maybe, Merv said. This is more important. They kept talking, not about the movie, not about Hollywood, not about any of the things she was supposed to promote. They talked about marriage, about loneliness, about what it's like to live with someone and still feel completely alone. She told him about the moments when she'd almost said something, almost confronted her husband, almost asked him if he was happy. But she never did. Because she was afraid of the answer, because it was easier to pretend everything was fine. And the crazy thing is, she said, I think he's pretending too. I think we're both just going through the motions, waiting for someone to say something first. Why don't you? Merv asked. She thought about it. Because once you say it out loud, you can't take it back. Once you admit that something's broken, you have to decide whether to fix it or walk away. And I don't know if I'm ready to make that decision. That's fair, Merv said. Is it? She asked. Or am I just a coward? You're not a coward, Merv said firmly. You're human. She smiled at that. A real smile this time. Small, but real. Thank you, she said. For what? For not making me feel like an idiot. You're not an idiot, Merv said. You're brave, braver than you think. She shook her head. I'm really not. You just told 20 million people something you've never told anyone else, Merv said. That's brave. She hadn't thought about it that way. 20 million people. Her publicist, her agent, her husband. The reality of it hit her all at once, and for a second she looked like she might be sick. Merv saw it. Hey, he said. Look at me. She did. You're going to be okay, he said. I promise. You're going to be okay. She wanted to believe him. The interview ended 10 minutes later. Merv thanked her for coming. She thanked him for having her. The band played her out. The audience applauded, but it was different this time, softer, more reverent. She walked off stage, and the second she was out of the camera's view, her publicist was waiting for her. What the hell was that? He hissed. She didn't answer. She just kept walking. Back in her dressing room, she sat down in front of the mirror and stared at her reflection. Her makeup was still perfect. Her hair was still in place. She looked exactly the same as she had when she'd walked on stage 30 minutes earlier. But she didn't feel the same. She felt lighter and heavier, both at once. Her publicist burst through the door. Do you have any idea what you just did? Yes, she said quietly. We need to do damage control. We need to call the network. We need to... No, she said. He stopped. What? No, she said again, louder this time. We're not doing damage control. We're not calling the network. We're letting it air. Are you insane? Your husband. I'll deal with my husband, she said. He stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You just ended your career. Maybe, she said. Or maybe I just saved it. The episode aired 3 days later. The reviews were immediate. Some critics called it uncomfortable television. Others called it the most honest moment in talk show history. A few called it a cry for help disguised as an interview. Her publicist's phone rang nonstop. Reporters wanted comments. Magazines wanted exclusive interviews. Everyone wanted to know, was it real? Was it scripted? Was she okay? Her husband didn't call, not that night, not the next day. She waited. She didn't know what she was waiting for, an argument, an apology, a conversation, but she waited. On the third day, he came home early from work. She was in the kitchen making tea when she heard the front door open. She turned around. He was standing in the doorway, still holding his briefcase. They looked at each other. "I saw it," he said. She nodded. "I thought you might. Why didn't you tell me you felt that way?" "Why didn't you?" she asked. He didn't have an answer. They stood there in silence, not the comfortable kind, not the kind they'd perfected over the years. This was a different kind of silence, the kind that demanded something. "I don't know what to do," he said finally. "Neither do I," she admitted. "Do you want to try?" he asked. "To fix this?" She thought about it, really thought about it. "I don't know," she said, "but I think we need to talk about it. Really talk, not just pretend." He nodded slowly. Okay. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't a sad ending. It was just the beginning of something honest. Merv didn't talk about the interview publicly. When reporters asked, he said, "She's a wonderful actress and a brave woman. That's all I have to say." But privately in his office, he watched the tape again. He watched the moment she said it, the moment she realized what she'd said, the moment she decided not to take it back. And he thought about all the other guests who'd sat in that chair, all the other people who'd almost said something real, something true, and then swallowed it back down. He thought about how rare it was, how precious, to watch someone choose honesty over comfort, to watch someone risk everything just to stop pretending. He thought about that a lot. 3 months after the interview aired, she did another press tour. Different movie, different circuit, but the same questions. "Are you still married?" "Yes." "Are you happy?" "I'm trying to be." "Do you regret what you said on Merv Griffin?" She thought about it. "No," she said, "I don't." Because the truth was, after the interview aired, something shifted. Not just in her marriage. In her. She started saying no to roles she didn't want. She started asking for what she deserved. She started having conversations she'd been avoiding for years. It wasn't easy. It wasn't neat. But it was real. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like herself. Years later, when people talked about that episode of the Merv Griffin show, they didn't talk about the movie she was promoting. They didn't talk about her dress or her hair or the jokes she told. They talked about the moment she stopped performing, the moment she let herself be seen, the moment Merv Griffin, one of the kindest men in television, made the choice to let her. Because that's what great hosts do. They don't just entertain. They don't just make people laugh. They hold space for the truth, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's something no one expected, especially then. The woman in the story never became tabloid fodder. There was no scandal, no divorce announcement splashed across magazine covers, no tell-all book. Just a woman who for one night told the truth, and a host who let her, and an audience that listened. And maybe that was enough.